Nau mai, haere mai, e te whānau. Welcome to the Flood of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny, and Alex is in Te Whanganui a Tara, Wellington. We have a wonderful double header to talk about today at Henry, formerly Sky Stadium. That was on Saturday. We will start with the men versus Perth, a nice 2-0 win. It was a little bit interesting to see Mandrake James and Carlo Armiento on the bench. And James did come on, but Carlo did not, which was quite surprising because I think we were really struggling to get shots away in the first half. We did get shots, but we really just, the midfield play, which was actually quite nice a lot of the time, just didn't have an outcome in terms of good shots. Either way, half-time, it's 0-0. In the 55th minute, Piper with a header from a corner. He just gets between Celtic and Sutton. And, Celtic, I feel like he's fallen off a little bit since he left Mariners. I don't know why that is, but he just gets the better of both of them, just gets in between them. And we've scored a lot of set-piece goals this season. I think now it's like 5 or 6, which is really crazy. But yeah, we got that 1-0. I feel like in the second half, we are actually, the play through the middle is translating to sort of more shots. 84th minute, just make it a little bit safer. Those 3 points, an own goal of former Knicks player Nico Pennington. Just bounces off his chest and kind of loops Matt Sutton, the keeper, and Shamoon. They just can't get to his deflection right to try and clear it. So not so bad. 2-0 win. Possession pretty even, 50-50. XG 2.05 to 0.27. So the chance-wise, we were definitely well ahead there. 20 shots to 7, 6 on target to 1. Alex, you were there?
Yeah, and how good is it to get a win? The Greeny era is up and running now. I think one of the biggest talking points is the switch to a back four. It looked noticeably different and arguably more balanced. I think it suited Alex Rufer a lot as well, with the extra midfielder in front of him and clearer defensive structure behind him. He wasn't really constantly dropping into the defensive line or scrambling to cover spaces as he has been so much this season. I thought it kind of gave him clearer responsibilities, gave him a lot more time, and he looked far more comfortable in dictating the tempo through the midfield. And saying that, a large part of that also came to how strangely passive Perth were through the middle of the pitch. Their midfield structure never really seemed settled. And as the game went on, players like Alex Rufer were able to receive the ball, turn, and pick passes without really being closed down. In a lot of A-League matches, the midfield kind of becomes a battle of second balls. But here we were just able to move the ball through the midfield way more comfortably than usual or than you'd expect. Spacing in Perth's midfield, I didn't think it was up to scratch. I think that's something that they should work on. Maybe they were preparing for a back five and then they made a back four and that kind of confused them. But especially when we transitioned from defence into attack, too often there was a large pocket of space in front of their back line. And after we kind of broke the first line of pressure, there wasn't really a second one waiting, and we could kind of overload them in that final third. But good on Greenacre for getting the win. I'm pleased he had the guts to make some changes finally.
Yeah, so our first view of Greeny Ball is the first time he's really put his mark on it, dropping free pretty much people who played every game in Toronto. James and Sheridan as well. Doesn't really get mentioned, but he's been certainly in a chiefy, probably been almost ever present in many different positions, but he's always there. And he was dropped to the bench. And yeah, really interesting that he's gone to a back four and that Hughes has stayed on the pitch rather than our Visa defender, which I think is justified. I think Hughes is our best central defender. And I think Tuilome probably gets in because of the set pieces, as you mentioned. He's a real threat at set pieces, and that's one of our main pass to goal now, so you can see why that was there. Edwards coming in at left back, very interesting. You would have thought, well, if this had been Chiefy, you'd have thought Sheridan probably would have taken it. If it wasn't Sheridan, he probably would have put in Hughes and had the two James and Tuiloma there. And then there's Lucas Kelly-Heald, and then Armiento. And so Dan Edwards would be way down the pecking order, but Greeny wanted him in there. Now, it's a very different job than it was under Chiefy. It's not a wing back. It was very much an orthodox sort of left back. And that's what Edwards is, which he did reasonably well. But also, I think he did lose something going forward. He wasn't able to get forward. And when he was, he's not a natural striker. So, he wasn't sort of producing chances up there the way our left-sided defenders have been previously. But then, to be honest, nor did Tim Payne. Even though he stayed up quite a bit, he didn't create that many chances as well. And he was working as that back right as well. So we were really dominant in this game. 2-0 doesn't do it justice at all. We should have had Nagasawa missed two of the easiest goals you'll ever see, and we probably should have put others away as well. Piper should have had with a one-on-one, and he sort of seemed to hold the flag up himself and stop playing, even though he wasn't technically offside, apparently. So we should have had a lot more. If you're looking at the stats, I think we had 20 shots to their 6, but the stat which I found was amazing was touches in the opposition box. We had 34, and I think they had 4. So it just tells you where the game was played. It was played constantly up their end. And I think it almost looked like, and a fair few people have said this, and some of my Sydney FC friends said this, we were playing Talley ball. So we were playing that 4-2-2-2 formation, and Perth were playing Chiefy ball from last year. They were playing deep in their defensive area and almost inviting us on to get up to the edge of the area and see what we could do. Which, when you think about who their manager is, Adam Griffiths, who was also the defensive coordinator for us last year, that makes sense. So it was sort of Talley ball versus Chiefy ball in a way. And they didn't have the players to break out just as we didn't last year. We did the year before, which is why we were successful, but Perth were just there as attacking defence pretty much all the way through. So that was really promising. I'm not sure we're going to come up against many teams who are going to be as passive as Perth. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, look, it was good without being really exciting. We didn't have much play down the wing, so we didn't have much wing play and crossing. It did come through the centre. I think, as you say, Alex, Rufer benefited from that, and I thought he was just so good. Just watching him play, just what a great player he is. I'll say at this level, but you don't even have to put that sort of rejoinder into there. He's just absolute quality. One of his best games for him, and showed how we missed him the week before, and when he's not on his form, everything went through him. His timing, his reading of the game, his decisions of when to stand up and when to go down, just almost a perfect game from him. And I thought Rattray did all right in sort of the second holding. Again, never been particularly enamoured with Rattray, but that position seemed to suit him. He didn't have to do anything really apart from take the ball and pass it on. And I think Najareen playing a little bit deeper gave him more space to run and do stuff. So Najareen, I thought, was more effective than he has been as well. So pretty good all the way through. A little bit disappointed Armiento didn't come on, because I think he's really good at attacking, and I thought he could have been brought on later on to try some shots. Maybe the thinking is, well, if they're packing their penalty box, Armiento shots from distance, less chance to go in because there's no space in front of him. LBS did well when he came on. I thought he created a couple of chances. I thought he could have come on earlier, but I think Greeny was just making sure. Let's just make sure we get the win here. We're doing well. Let's just keep it solid at the back and midfield until Perth. We know we're not going to lose, and then we can bring LBS on and he'll have a little run and a few dinks here and there. But so it was good. It was Greeny ball or Talley ball Mark II. Very different from Chiefy. It was obviously successful. There's going to be tougher challenges to come for this formation against teams that are quicker and faster and will break out through our press when we're attacking. I like that second press when we're attacking. We didn't let up at all. But there are teams that are going to be able to break through that, and then they're going to be on our defence much quicker than Perth did. Yes, we'll see how that goes then. But yeah, look, 3 points. Last game in Wellington. Nice way to finish off in Wellington, I think.
Definitely, I agree. It was a little bit disappointing that Carlo didn't go on, but I do understand a little bit on the context of going to a back four. I was also maybe not that pleased with Dan Edwards coming on. I remember the very first time he played for us, and he was brilliant. He was really good, and then he dropped out. I think it might have been at least partially injury, and then maybe, I don't know whether he was out of favour for a while. So it was interesting to see him come back in. The problem was that he'd never passed the ball forward. He'd get in a really advanced position with the ball, and instead of looking to play forward, he'd turn around and he'd pass it backwards. And I started count. I lost count. It really frustrated the hell out of me because he was getting the ball in good positions, just not I understand not wanting to take a massive risk when you're four at the back, but still, there's no reason why you can't at least pump that ball into the box. And he was just playing back. I was actually quite pleased when he went off. I don't know whether maybe it's just instructions. I mean, we've also had players like have that tendency as well. I remember some people complaining about Louis Fenton never playing the ball forwards, always just turning and playing it back. So it's not the only time we've had a player like that. I don't know whether there was any kind of instruction about risk there. Either way, it did really, really frustrated me, but it did work out in the end, I guess.
I think it probably was, yeah. I think it's a little bit of both. Dan Edwards is not a natural attacker. He's coming up there when he gets down there. There's a lot of defenders in his way because they're packing the defence. He's probably not the kind of person who can see that little dink pass or reverse pass, whatever, so he goes for the safety. But yeah, it probably is. Been told as well, he's like, don't lose a ball, give it to someone else, let's keep it up there. Louis Fenton was, I think, when he played, he was a manager's wet dream because he did whatever the manager told him. So there were seasons when, yeah, he would never pass forward. He'd get to the halfway line and then turn and stop. But under different managers, there were times when he went for the byline every single time. He did exactly what the manager told him, which is why I think he was picked over a long period of time. Every manager who had him picked him, even though, he probably wasn't the greatest player in the A-League. He had a really long career because he just did what the manager told him. If the manager told him, don't go across the halfway line, play it simple, he did that. And if the manager told him, hit the byline, get a ball across, he did that as well. I imagine there's a little bit of that with Dan Edwards as well. That's what Greeny wanted him to do.
I'll mention our next game. So that is away to Brisbane at Suncorp Stadium this time, Saturday, 1st of March. That is 6 p.m. New Zealand time. That would be 3 p.m. local time. Danny, are you going up? No, Danny's not going up. I had an idea that Danny was...
No, I went up last season, and a fair few friends came over from Wellington, and it was one of the worst away games I've ever seen. It was that terrible 1-0 loss where we just didn't even try.
And Suncorp's a soulless place.
It is.
If you pack it out like early A-League days, I'm sure it's brilliant, but it is a soulless place when there's only a few thousand fans. And their thoughts about Brisbane, I think there's if we play well, there's no reason why we can't beat them. My understanding is, I haven't done the math, that sort of the top 5 are getting to the point where that's fixed and the rest of the teams will be battling it out for that 6th final spot. So we're running low on, again, it's all possible, but someone had mentioned that it's basically getting to the point where it's 7 teams scrapping for one spot. Thoughts on the Brisbane game?
Yeah, I think it's must win if we want to continue our run into the top 6. Pretty much just pivotal. If we can't pick up points here, I don't see us picking up many points in our last few matches. So yeah, must win. Get out there, get the boys raring to go. Yeah,
if we want to make the finals, we've effectively got to win all our games. We really can't afford to lose any. And realistically, is that going to happen? Well, it's a big ask. It's a big ask. Could happen. Brisbane game will be interesting. They're equal on points with us on the table. They started off reasonably well in the season and have had a bit of a downturn. They seem to be found out a little bit. They're very physical sort of style of play. I think this game is going to be one for the purists. I don't think this is going to be that entertaining because Greeny's he will be happy with, well, won't be happy. I think he'd be reasonably happy with a point away from home. That's what he'll be playing for to an extent. Obviously, he'd like to win, but he just don't want to lose. So I think we will be lining up the way we did before. We will try to be as solid as we can there. Brisbane fight hard, but they don't have a lot of, marvellous, exciting attackers. So I think he's going to be pretty attritional. Rufer guaranteed to get a yellow card at some point because he's going to have to get stuck in. Retro probably as well. I could see a really attritional, hard-fought 0-0 draw coming out of this, and everyone walking away going, "Okay, that's 90 minutes of my life. I'm not getting back." I wouldn't necessarily mind that. I think a solid draw would keep our sort of whatever momentum we've got sort of going, and I think that's probably the most likely result.
Awesome. Well, tune in Saturday night. Let us move on to the women. They played Brisbane. They were the second match of the doubleheader. It was really exciting to see Macy Fraser on the bench, and she did come onto the pitch and play the whole second half. That was super exciting to see after an extended break from football for mental health reasons. There was no Pia Vlock. That was a big omission. Apparently she got a concussion on Fern's duty. I really hope that she comes right soon. She's been a key attacking player for us. We got started really early 10th minute, Mania Elliott, a header from a Brook Nunn cross, just gets in, powers it in. Great goal. Love Mania. 16th minute, Emma Pynenberg, who was our player of the match, she had an excellent match, her best match for us, I think, since she started. So the ball kind of pops out from a corner, and she does this really, like, it looks kind of awkward, but it turns out beautiful, this sort of outside of her foot. She prods it with the outside of her foot, and it goes in a dink over the and into the back of the net. It's really tidy. It was a great goal to get through when you're further up in the box and then it's all crowded from a corner. It's very easy to try and lash at it, and it just deflects off somebody. So the way that she's managed to, like, technically just place that in exactly the right place, fantastic. 43rd minute, I have to mention, Michaela Woods had a pretty awful miss, squares the ball to her, and it is a tap in. It is a total tap in, and it goes wide. She really struggled for quite a bit of this game. A lot of offsides, a lot of, just attacking chances that she's made a hash of. So halftime, we were 2-0. 72nd minute, you could see how much it meant, with mentioning, how much Michaela was struggling. Michaela does get a goal. It's from a corner, it drops, and she does this 180 swivel and just lashes it into the back of the net. And you could just see in her body language and the scream of joy that she gave out that she finally got a goal that game. I think one of the other things that was a major moment is in the 84th, Vic Essen put up a fantastic save. Genuinely a world-class save. I can't remember who the shot came from, but she's dived, like, far corner, and she's just got her hand out and just kept it out. It was a beautiful, beautiful save. I mean, if it had gone and we would have been 3-1, we probably should have still won the game, but just to keep that clean sheet, we need that goal difference, keep that momentum, that confidence. Really, really good save. So full-time 3-0, possession 56 to 44%, XG 2.74 to 0.34, shots 21 to 6, on target 5 to 3. This was a very, very comprehensive win. It was great to see. Alex, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, it was great to see after the international break. The team completely shrugged off their poor form going into the international break. Just what a dominant performance. What stood out was the number of chances created. Obviously we scored 2 goals from set pieces, but also the number of chances from open play. We repeatedly found space in kind of the wide areas, and I thought Mackenzie Anthony had a lot of good moves kind of on the edge of the box. Originally, when we first signed her, I thought, she's just going to be off the bench. Michaela Woods will be starting, and Mackenzie Anthony will be used when teams kind of defend low, which is something that we really struggled attacking against in the first half of the season. But, I think she proved what she can do as a starter in this game. She started quite a lot of moves kind of in the final third, and she was a good link-up player. She doesn't have much pace, but, Michaela Woods offers that, and I think that kind of dynamic worked really well, especially in this game. And another day, as you said, the missed opportunities, several of those could go in, and the scoreline starts to look more like 5 or 6 goals rather than 2 or 3. Vic Essen had probably her best game in the next shirt. There was a bit of uncertainty around her because we hadn't really seen a World Cup goalkeeper in her, and a football fans level goalkeeper, but she played really well. I'm pleased to get all that behind you, and hopefully we can start kicking on from there.
So this was the second game. If you look at the stats, they're almost identical to the men's game in terms of the number of shots versus the opposition shots, touches in the box. Hugely dominant performance again. Again, 3-0 did not flatter us at all. Could have had 5 or 6. Could have had more, certainly than the men did in their game as well. Just totally dominant and just so good to watch as well. That interplay between sort of Woods, Anthony and Leon, just really great to watch. Just those little touches where they're knocking it around a player, either go around themselves or knocking someone else. Just really hard for teams to defend against. Look, Brisbane aren't the greatest side, but we just look so fluid going forward, like it can come from anywhere. It's great. And Pynenberg, where the hell she found her shooting boots. I think she must have taken them off Michaela Woods because she lost her shooting boots in the first half. But who knew she could shoot like that? She had she had two amazing shots before she actually even scored. It was just absolute quality. So long distance one which hit the bar, another one which the keeper saved. And then, as I say, the finish for her goal was really clever because it was very tricky. So the technical finish on that was excellent. And she could have had another one as well later on. It was just, wow, very impressive. So if she can shoot like that, then again, guaranteed place in the team. She's still probably a little bit lacking a bit of strength for that midfield role in terms of the tackling. Jale's got that, so maybe we can afford to have that. If she pops in with those sort of long distance shots and the shooting, then she's definitely worth that place in the team. So she did really well. Brisbane had very little. They had a few breaks because we were spending so much time at the other end of the pitch. So couple of sort of breaks in transition there, but again, we know our defence is just pretty hot on that. And then when Essen needed to stand up, she did. Again, she hasn't had to make many saves like that this season. I think, we can say, she hasn't shown, her sort of pedigree as much, but she hasn't needed to. And I think that's partly down to defence, which is down to her as well, because she organises that defence. And she's just in the right place at the right time. She doesn't always need to do those, real sort of reaching saves, but when she needed to, she did, and it was an absolute quality save. So really dominant performance. And you watch that and you think, again, you just think you're going to win the league. Then you look at the table and it's like, oh no, we've got a lot of work to do. So, there's only a few games left, and I think Bev said, yeah, we have to win them all. And I think she's probably right. If we want to finish top two, and we do, because we want our home semi-final, we're going to have to win probably 3 out of the next 4, or I think there's 4 left, so maybe at least 3 out of the next 4. There's no reason why we can't do that. We play like that, we will beat pretty much most teams on there, anyone who's below us. There's a couple of good teams who will cause us more problems than Brisbane did, but there's so much quality in the side and so much fight. And to see Macy Fraser come on and she slotted in, did well. Didn't look like she'd been out for a best part of the season, so that was excellent to see as well. And then, we still got Pia Vlock to come back, so I wouldn't put money against us finish. I certainly wouldn't put money against us finishing top 2. I would probably put a little bit of money on it.
Yeah, for sure. There's 4 games left, and we'll chat about the Sydney one coming up, but Sydney away, Mariners away, Wanderers at home, and Adelaide away, which will be a big 6-pointer because we are third behind City and Adelaide, and City beat Canberra. So at this stage, they're not dropping points. We really will need them to drop points if we're going to actually win the league. I do want to mention that over the week, a really cute video came out of the fact that we have re-signed Michaela Woods and Brooke Nunn for next season, which I think is a great bit of business. They've been really influential, and I think this is the first time we've ever managed to, or chosen to / managed to re-sign a visa player for our women's team. So that's a really, really big one. So there's a lot to do. There's still so much to do this season in those 4 matches, but we are looking forward towards next season as well. Danny?
Just on that, reselling Michaela Woods, are we at a position now where we can say that Samba's injury was a good thing for the Phoenix? With Samba getting injured, I don't think Michaela Woods turns up at the club. If you look at the contributions they both made to the team, I think Michaela Woods is coming out on top. That's not to denigrate Samba in any way whatsoever. She was absolute quality. She had the extra of bringing the extra fans in as well, which is great. And I've no doubt if she continued to play, she'd be scoring goals as well. But without her injury, I don't think we get Michaela Woods. And she has just been absolute quality since she turned up in terms of scoring, in terms of assists, in terms of just turning that team in there. So, yeah, obviously, I'm not saying it was a good thing that Samba did her ACL, but maybe it's turned out the best for the club.
I think in hindsight, maybe, but if you'd, injury replacements at the Phoenix or mid-season signings, I can't remember any mid-season signings that have knocked your socks off the way that Michaela Woods has. On the men's side, we've had Chico, Bill Tuiloma, Sander Cartum. The only good one I can remember, I forgot his name, that Costa Rican fella in Chiefy's first season. He was all right. he added a lot of fight. But Michaela Woods has just been a revelation in this team. She offers us a completely different way to play. And I think when we had Samba on the pitch, we were kind of caught up in trying to play to Samba's strengths. And when she actually wasn't on the team, it gave us a bit more freedom to play the way we want to and play the way this team should. Instead of basing the team around one marquee player, the team is based around, or the tactics are based around the whole team. And I think that works a lot better.
Well, that next game that's coming up is against Sydney. That is Friday, 9 p.m. New Zealand time, 7 p.m. local at Leichhardt Oval, the little corner of yellow. Will be there. If you are able to make it to Sydney on Friday night, please come along. Please join us. Last time we were there, unfortunately, that was a game that was a must-win that we lost. But anyway, that's another thing. In the days after we had that turnout and made that noise, there was a Sydney FC fan who mentioned online that we were the best women's away turnout that he had ever seen at Leichhardt Oval. So listen, you can make a big, big difference if you show up to these games. So please join us if you can. Otherwise, tune in. Now, Sydney was our boogie team last season because they weren't great last season either. And a couple of factors probably came in, but we dropped the ball on that, and that was sort of why I think one of the steps towards not making finals. But we really, really need a win here, and there's no reason why we can't get a win here. Danny, you'll be there?
Absolutely. My local ground of A-League ground, so that's nice. I can walk there. Look, we've obviously put 7 goals past them previously. I would imagine that they will be just looking to defend as much as possible and not put 7 in, a bit like ourselves after the Auckland game. So that'll be their priority. So I imagine there'll be a lot of attacking from us and a lot of defending from them. Like our Oval is normally a bit of a paddock, but it hasn't rained here for a while. So hopefully we'll get a decent surface because it can be cut up pretty badly up there. I can't see anything but a Phoenix win. Perfectly honest, we just have that much more quality in the side. Sydney are not that great at the moment. Yeah, anything can happen. They're at home, we're away. But realistically, if you look at the teams, you look at what the teams have done, we've got to be very, very heavy favourites. It's whether we can break down their defence and get that goal in. We'll see. And maybe Pijnenburg gives one boot back to Michaela Woods and keeps one, and then they can score with their respective scoring boots. But I think we'll win.
I think we've only got one more home game to round out the season. So it's important that we kind of figure out this playing away thing that the Waihineks have never really figured out how to do. For away games, we want to get maximum points from all of them to round out the season, head in with the biggest chance of getting that Premier's plate, and then, it's time to focus on finals. I think Sydney FC haven't really been very good this season. We've been good. That's opposite to how it usually is. Usually Sydney FC would be the clear favourites, but take advantage of that, go into this with confidence, and hopefully we get 3 points.
Let's it might be worth mentioning. So with the midweek game, this is the Mariners game that was supposed to be in, I think, November and got pushed back because of the international window. That is Wednesday, 25th of March, 10 p.m. local, 9 p.m. New Zealand time. That's at Central Coast Stadium, as with Friday night at Leichhardt Oval. Join us. This will be a huge match for our season. Any thoughts, any extended thoughts on where we're sitting with Mariners? Mariners are much further up the table. They've got the dreaded Izzy Gomez.
I mean, yeah, look, that's going to be a much tougher game than the Sydney game. It's on a good pitch, a big pitch up there, and they generally do quite well against us. They have done this season, so that's going to be a much more interesting game in terms of even-handedness. And I think, look, if we get a draw out of that, wouldn't be the worst result in the world. I don't think a draw away at Mariners, it'll keep us above them, so it fends them off a little bit. Although obviously we have just said that if we want to finish top, we've got to win all our games. It'll be interesting to see what Bev does for that. That would be a test of her ability as a coach to try and outthink the opposition coach. So yeah, looking forward to that one.
We've lost every time that we've played them, 5 times, home and away. We've lost every game, so it's time to break that weird little spell. So one of the things that happened with the doubleheader is it was our charity round. The kits looked great on the pitch, with the red and the yellow and the white and the little elements that had been drawn by kids who were part of the Ronald McDonald House community, I suppose you could say. Those shirts all went on auction. So please consider bidding on those. Now, I have to say, as a fan, I'm a little bit, in the past, the charity shirts were auctioned on Trade Me. And I'm assuming that maybe someone from the club ran it, which is a little bit of work, but they've this time decided to, I'm guessing, ship them all the way to the Netherlands to be sold on match-worn shirts or something like that, which charge $65 for shipping, and they charge this massive cut for themselves. I have to say, I'd like to know the club's decision on that. I think that's really, really disappointing, and I think it will put a lot of people off actually buying one. So it'll be interesting to see what the club has to say.
Match-worn shirts partner with the A-League, I believe, so it might not have been a decision that was in the club's range of things that they can decide on. But, obviously it's far, much worse for the fans and for the charity. If you pay, I did the maths before, I think it was, if you pay $230 for a shirt, only 150 of that goes to charity. And, versus when we're doing them on Trade Me, I think they cap their success fees, which now the buyer pays, but I think it's capped at $5. And, it's also environmentally a lot worse. Like, for some reason, the club has to send the shirt to Amsterdam, and then Match-worn Shirts pretty much puts it in a box. And I think they do something with NFC. They put some tag on it to make sure that it's legit, which, Wellington Phoenix, there's not that much debate over whether it's legit or not. If you say you've got a player shoot shirt in New Zealand, chances are you do. It's not much lying about that. But then they've got to ship it back to New Zealand when we buy it over here. So, you're shipping stuff across to the other side of the world and then back again. There's no point of that. And then you got to charge $60, take away $60 from charity. It's just obviously worse. And I hope the club or the league seriously consider changing that for next year. The only thing is that Match-worn Shirts used to have an office in Melbourne, presumably when they made the partnership with the A-League, but now that's gone and we have to ship them to Amsterdam instead. It's not very good.
I mean, it's hard to decide, but I know the club doesn't want to have to do that extra work, but it does seem like an inefficient way, an expensive way of doing things. And you know what, maybe it's like they go back to doing it a different way next season, but it is a pity for it to cost fans so much, because that cost that they're now paying on shipping could have actually gone to the cost of the shirts. Thank you for joining us. I will see you next time.